Coach will have a brief opening statement, then we'll open it up for questions.
Obviously, we're all very disappointed in the outcome of the game in Nashville. We didn't play well enough or coach well enough to win the game, and they did. They outplayed us and outcoached us. I give those guys credit. We have to be better. Have to have a better plan. It doesn't take away from how tremendous Hokie Nation was. The turnout was incredible, and we all appreciate it as players and coaches, and understand how special it is. We're very, very fortunate that way. We all look forward to the crowd for our first home game against Marshall. The students, the student section, sellout crowd. It's a special deal being back in Lane Stadium. We're looking forward to it. Celebrating the '99 team. You don't have many opportunities to celebrate a team that played for a national championship, and we'll do that, which is special. There's a lot of personal ties to the Marshall program, for our team, for our program, for our staff, for our players. It's meaningful. And this is a good team we're playing, a group that's beaten Notre Dame recently, that's beaten us, that's taken North Carolina State to the wire. I mean, we're going to get their best effort. They're well coached. Coach Huff does a good job. I expect it to be a good football game. Questions?
Start right here with Andy.
Yeah, Brent, I'm curious, after a disappointing opening week result like that, what is the tenor of a Sunday practice with you? Is it intensity, or how do you approach something like that?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's addressing what we felt like was not where it needed to be. From a coaching standpoint, owning that with our team. From a player standpoint, owning it with one another. You have to kind of get to a place where you can be, make the corrections, make the adjustments when you get out there on the field. I think the guys did a great job with that. We're not out there banging heads on Sundays. It was still a physical game. We got guys with banged up with some nicks and bruises, but we make the corrections. We get in a good headspace, and then we move on to the next opponent and dive into those guys.
Look at the depth chart you released. Jalen Stroman is not on there. Do you expect him this week?
No.
Was that an injury from last week? What happened with him?
Yeah, he was injured.
Do you expect that to be long term?
I don't know that yet. I foresee him missing a couple of weeks at least.
What does that do to your safety situation? I know you had sort of a rotation of three there, and in the past you've talked about Mansour possibly playing there as well. How's that factor in? Yeah,
so obviously it's increased reps for Jalen Jones, for Mose, and for Quentin Reddish. They'll be his snap count's going to jump way up, and he'll play both the field and the boundary. And then we've continued to train Mansour there because of situations like this. So he got snaps in camp. He was in some meetings. He's been involved there. We'll increase that. And then we've also got a situation with Braylon Johnson, with Devin Alves, where we're giving those guys some opportunities, possibly even Caleb Spencer to play a little bit in that boundary. So we've got to find that fourth guy right now. If it gets into an injury situation, Mansour's the next guy right now. But to be the fourth guy going into the game, Mansour will obviously be your starting corner. So, somebody else has to step up and do that.
Damon.
Brent, got to see the offensive line combination for the first time. Through film review, how did you assess their performance?
Yeah, I think in the run game, we need to be more physical. They were shooting gaps and doing some things that we hadn't expected, and it slowed us down a little bit. I think we got to come off the ball, be more aggressive, be more physical. At moments, we looked pretty good in the run game. We were hat on hat. We were moving people. And then in the throw game, I think we got beat a little bit too often. You know, they had a little bit too much success rushing the quarterback than we'd like to see. We got to be better there.
The evaluation, what was the communication like with them on the sideline? Did it seem like all five were in sync, or did it feel like with Lath, first time starting, Braylon, first time at center, that there might have been, some things missed because of them being in new spots?
There was a few communication issues, but not many. And I thought Lath, for the most part, in his first start, did a pretty good job.
I wanted to ask you about linebacker. It seems like you've moved Keller back to Mike. I know he still can play Mike and Will, and you got Kelly and Caleb in there, and then Jim McDonald, I guess, is there as a third option at Mike. What did you see about moving those guys around to specific places?
Yeah, we thought Kelly played harder, faster, what we need. Made some plays in the game. By any means didn't play perfect or even great, but made some plays that opened our eyes. And he's done that throughout camp. That's been a close battle with him and J.K. The other piece is, just a little more onus on J.K. at Mike to be a good complement to Sam. And then the last piece is Caleb Woodson has done a nice job. He did some good things in the game and deserves more snaps.
Back of the room, Jermaine.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate your time. I got to ask you, sir, obviously last year there were occasions you guys got off to slow starts, and it kind of reared its head this past week. What do you guys have to do to prevent these slow starts? Because obviously once you go off to a slow start, you use all this energy to make the comeback, but then it just didn't work out.
Yeah, we certainly dug ourselves in a hole, and nobody wants to do that. I think, the methodical drive that Vanderbilt had to start the game, it's deflating for your defense. And then to turn around in your first possession on offense, it's an interception. You get him to 3rd and 8, you got a chance for a big sudden change stop. They make a nice throw and catch, and they score, and you're down 10-0. I think the momentum went their way pretty quick. We got on our heels a little bit, and it took too long to recover. We made some nice adjustments last year in how we started practice, and we did that this camp. Most practices we started with a competitive period to get the guys going. I think when you start slow, you have to have a momentum swing. And I talked about it with the staff. We need to be aggressive as play callers in those situations, and we need to go make plays. To swing it back, to get out of that thing quicker than we did.
Let's go David and back to Andy.
Yeah, I'm curious, when you look at the first half on film and the way you guys approached it, what stood out in your eye about what you guys could do differently in that situation?
There's a lot, obviously. That's the first half certainly wasn't up to our expectations. Not how I expected us to start the game. I think their quarterback did a nice job. There were some differences with formations and things that we hadn't seen. And, they were methodical. They stayed on schedule that first drive. I still saw it as a positive to force the field goal. I don't know that our players felt that way. And then you want to answer offensively. You want to go answer. We had an inside screen call that looked like it was going to be pretty good. They had an inside blitz called. Their linebacker did a nice job, knocked the ball up in the air. D-tackle makes a nice play. All of a sudden, they're in the red zone knocking on the door, and we get them to 3rd and 8, an opportunity to get a sudden change stop. And our coverage isn't exactly what it needs to be. They make a nice throw and catch, and all of a sudden it's 10-0. But, we didn't get enough possessions offensively. That's certainly obvious. The last possession truly of the half was the 2-minute, which I wasn't happy with that. But we had the long drive that resulted in a field goal. You'd like to see 4 or 5 possessions for our offense to get it, have a chance to kind of get it going.
Andy asked you about the safeties earlier. Jalen Jones seemed like he played pretty well on Saturday. What were your impressions, and what have you seen from his growth in terms of where he was last season, this offseason? Kind of like Mose, where both those guys are taking big leaps.
Yeah, I think Jalen played with more confidence, and I think he played the way he practiced all camp. I can't say that for everybody right now, but I think he did a nice job of bringing everything, all the improvements he made. He brought that into game one. It should be a confidence builder for him as well. Obviously, we're going to rely on him even more now with Jalen's situation.
Gallo didn't travel on the depth chart. Is there any update on his situation?
He's questionable. Unlikely, but questionable.
And in terms of the helmet communication, did you guys have any issues with that on Saturday? It looked like in overtime there might have been trouble getting a play in.
Yeah, so I asked Kyron, and Colin, and it was just sometimes it was about hearing it. It wasn't loud enough in the headset, and you'll see them, and I saw it a lot, watching some games, covering the ear holes to be able to hear it well enough. So, we talked about making sure our volume's what it needs to be, and when we're speaking into the mic that it's nice and loud and clear so that there doesn't have to be a repeat of it. But for the most part, it was pretty good, Andy.
Back there, Jimmy, and then Damien.
Hi, Coach Jim Tracy from WSSD in Huntington. Coach Huff has talked.
Huntington in the house.
Oh, I've got up at 7 in the morning for this.
Okay.
Talk about, he's talked all month about he doesn't know who's going to start a quarterback. Is that hard for you to prepare for? If you don't, it might be the kid from Tulsa, it might be the kid from North Texas, or last year's starter. Is that, how challenging is that? Because you might know who you see in game 2, but that's going to be quite a question mark here in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think we broke down both quarterbacks. We looked at their film. They both played a couple of games at their prior institution. We looked at those. We looked at what they did in this game against Stony Brook. It was a little bit different with each guy, but there was a lot of similarities as well. So I think you got to study them independently, and that's what we've done. They're both pretty talented guys.
Damien.
Brent, you had to rotate new defensive linemen in there for the first time with Aeneas, Kelvin, Kamari. How would you assess how the defensive line played?
Yeah, I thought that unit played well, to be quite honest. They weren't enough of a factor in the game. It was more of a perimeter issue defensively, but I thought they played well, and the rotation was good. It was healthy. I thought Kamari came in, who's really been penciled in as the 5th D tackle right now, and made some good plays and earned more playing time. But I thought all those guys played pretty well.
We're going to talk to Kelvin, I guess, tomorrow. He seemed like he blew up a play there, bulldozed through the offensive lineman on, I believe, on the 3rd down play. Did you like how he played in his burst, that he was able to play opposite, whether it's Aeneas or Josh or Wilfred?
Yeah, I sure did. I thought he did a nice job. Another guy that had a good camp that carried it into the first game. I think there's 5 guys there right now that you got a healthy rotation, and all of them, JC's done a good job. All of them can play nose or 3 technique. I can't say that we've always been able to do that here or at other places. It's challenging initially, but it helps you down the stretch, and we're fortunate to be in that place now.
Back there, Jimmy again.
Coach, what does Huntington mean to you? Your dad went there, and we might have been on the same playground together at 5 years old. Might not remember much of that town, but what's it kind of mean to the Pry family, kind of where he's kind of started things, and here we are?
Yeah, it means a ton. I spent a couple years there, married, student housing. My folks got married at 18 and had me, and that's kind of where it all started. So Marshall's very near and dear to my father. Just his experience going there, why he chose Marshall, being on that, the Young Thunder and Herd, and taking him to that game last year. And, he walked around campus and walked around town, and it was emotional for him. So it means a ton, and I think about Frank Loria and, just what he means to this place, and, Coach Tolley. I mean, just there's so much that when you dive into it that I don't ever want to, we got to go be 1-0 and win this game. But, man, there's a lot of layers that are emotional about Marshall and about for myself, my family, for this team, for this school, so got a lot of respect for Marshall.
Let's go to Zoom for a few.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to ask questions. Please also state your name and affiliation before asking. We'll start with David Teal, please.
Brent, you were gone by then, I guess, at Western Carolina. But do you have any memories of Virginia Tech's 1999 season?
Just watching it on TV, David. Obviously stayed close and was very proud. I remember the fourth quarter and the coverage adjustment and all the things that you think about as a coach. When Florida State kind of either took the lead or got back in it right there at the end. But I know it's a big piece of the tradition around here, and we certainly speak of it, on the recruiting trails and with our team. So, I'm anxious. I'm excited that we're celebrating that group. They deserve it as coaches and players.
You mentioned the first half Saturday on offense. Your passing game seemed to be almost strictly horizontal, and it got much more vertical in the second half. Was it the plan to start that way, or did you guys just not have the execution that you needed?
Yeah, I think it's both. We wanted to work the perimeter, saw that as a strength and opportunity to get those guys the ball out on the perimeter to open up the inside run game. Make sure they're defending the whole field. And we weren't successful enough. Perimeter blocking, execution, it wasn't good enough. And at the same time, we always want to threaten the field vertically as well. And there were some plays called, and we got soft coverage, and Kyron checked the ball down, which he should have, that prevented maybe, a big play down the field. But we know we have to do that. That's got to be one of our strengths, is throwing the ball, pushing the ball down the field. And we saw that in the second half, and I think as coaches and as the head coach, I got to make sure that happens early in the game, and we're consistent with it.
You were pretty animated after the last play. Have you discussed that with the ACC? And if so, what did they tell you about targeting there?
Yeah, they felt like it was clean. When you looked at it on film, their defender was going for the ball, and the collision occurred. There were some other plays we turned in, but that one was hard to justify. I mean, I was worried about Quan in the moment. I didn't see it precisely enough to know. It was just a heck of a hit, a heck of a collision. I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad he bounced up, because often enough you see it go the other way there.
Go to David Hale next, please.
Brent, I know you talked a lot over the offseason and during camp about making sure that your guys were in the right headspace and we're not, reading too many of the press clips that were saying how great things ended last year. Do you feel like they were in the right headspace to open that game, and where do you think the sort of mental approach is this week?
Yeah, we've certainly talked about that the last couple of days. As a reminder for the team, I think you never know for sure, but we talked about it. Can't be there. You can't ever feel like you're better than you are. You hear me say all the time, humble and hungry. They seemed in a good headspace in that locker room. I think the way the game started kind of deflated things. I think there was respect for Vanderbilt. I know as a coaching staff we did, and we certainly preached that with our team. But, it's my job as a head coach to make sure that we come out, guns blazing and playing really tough and really hard. And I don't think we did that. It wasn't long into the game where I felt like we lost that, and it took too long to get it back.
Any final questions on Zoom? Okay, Travis.
We'll come back in the room. We'll go Raza, Brooke, and David to finish.
Coach, seems like you guys schemed up a few plays in the Vanderbilt game for Trey Heath, kind of in a bit of a gadget role. What have you liked from him in that role, and what do you think his role in the offense will be moving forward this season?
Yeah, I liken him to a young Jay Lane. He's got ability to catch the short ball and make something happen with it. You can hand him the ball or pitch him the ball. He's got a really good skill set, and he demonstrated that in camp. He was playing his best football. Had a minor injury that set him back for a couple days, but like with a lot of these new players, you give them a just a small opportunity and see what they do with it, and then it can grow from there. And I think Takai's a guy that, showed us in big moments in a game he can make a play. So I look for him to be part of what we do offensively moving forward.
Good morning. What are some things from Saturday that you feel like were good or hopeful or that you guys can capitalize on heading into Marshall?
Yeah, first of all, I love their resiliency. It's not easy for a team to battle back. It's 17-3, and to come out and find a way not just to come back and tie the game, but take the lead. Well, obviously, we got to finish better, but we were able to do that, and I'm proud of that. I think Kyron, it's kind of lost in the loss, but Kyron, it was a career best completions, career best passing yardage in a half, really. He did some good things, and he wouldn't be happy with his performance. But and there were some bright spots, across the roster from a personnel standpoint. Some things that occurred that get us excited about some guys that we'll be able to count on. And I think just growth and development, throughout the experience. I mean, we understand the expectations, and we're certainly disappointed. What we can do is invest and get better and learn from it and have a heck of a week and go be a better team this Saturday. We have to be. So I think, I haven't lost confidence in our team. I'm excited about our football team. Certainly not what we expected and not what I expect and not what they expect. They're as disappointed as anybody. And so I do expect a great week of practice and improved performance on Saturday.
Last one, Dave.
Do you have an update on Will Johnson?
Will's going to be out for a little while. Yeah, tough guy, starter on 4 special teams, ultimate team guy, pretty tough injury, tough guy. I knew when I saw him kind of in agony out there, it wasn't something minor, because otherwise he would have bounced up and limped off if he had to. So he's going to be out of commission for a little bit. We hope to get him back at some point down the stretch.
Somebody we're supposed to talk to here shortly is Benji. You mentioned how he's making catches through traffic, or was in fall camp. I know he dropped the first one, but he had a couple big ones for you. What did you like about his first game this season?
Yeah, first of all, I loved, he could have hung his head. He dropped that first one, which would have been a touchdown. Man, he bounced back and made some big plays for us, and showed his toughness, yards after the catch, but also he did a much better job in the run game against a pretty good, couple of defensive ends that had some size and were bending down in there, and Benji was making good contact and good leverage, and so I think it's a great game for him to build on. I was happy for him and excited to see him continue to grow and develop.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.